Greetings, Bat Family, and welcome back to Holy BatCast, brought to you by Real Fans for Real Movies. Visit our website, holybatcast.com, and find us all over social media on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Just search for Holy BatCast. You will find us. If you love the show, you want to help support the show, you can do that on Patreon. You go to patreon.com/holybatcast. And I got to give little shout-outs to some new patrons. First of all, our patron, Devin, I don't have a last name here. Sorry, Devin. But Devin actually upped his pledge, and that is very sweet of him. Thank you, Devin. That's great. And then we have
Maybe he doesn't have a last name. Maybe he's like Prince.
It could be. It's just Devin. And, I mean, that's a good one.
I always wanted to be that person. I've just never been courageous enough to lose the last name.
Well, I mean, to our listeners, you are just Jamie.
Fair point.
So, you know, it happens. Another shout out to Jalen Roscoe, who is a new patron. So Devin and Jalen, you guys are awesome. Thank you very much. We appreciate it. And thank you to all our patrons. You guys are awesome. So yeah, if you want to become a patron, you go to patreon.com/holybatcast. We are part of the Real Fans Podcast Network. You can check out all those shows at rf4rm.com. And as always, I'm Andy DiGenova. You can follow me on Twitter or on Instagram. It's just my name, Andy DiGenova. Now this episode, we're actually going back a little bit, back about a year, to review an animated DC film that we hadn't gotten around to, but we kept meaning to, and that is Superman, Man of Tomorrow. So joining me for that is, you already heard his voice, he's back, it's Jamie Drewley. Hey, Jamie.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning. How are you?
It's a bright, sunshiny summer day, and pumpkin spice season started about 3 or 4 days ago. I'm already hip deep into that. My daughters notified me the day before that it was coming back tomorrow, and they didn't ask, can we go to Starbucks on the way to school tomorrow? They're like, you're taking us to Starbucks tomorrow before we go to school. I'm like, I ain't even mad. Let's do it.
They're right.
Yeah, pumpkin season, full swing.
Same here. I think it started on Tuesday, which was kind of random, but it started on Tuesday, and I drove up to the Starbucks drive-thru, and I just was like, Happy PSL Day. And the guy was like, yep, Happy PSL Day. And have been back every day since.
I can just imagine the baristas at Starbucks being like, they get done with the drive-through order and they turn off their headphones and they yell back to the kitchen, "We got one!"
Well, I went to Target last weekend, and I come home and I have like Halloween Oreos and pumpkin spice cinnamon rolls and more pumpkin coffee and pumpkin spice creamer and a little pumpkin air freshener. And basically, if you put a pumpkin on it, I bought it.
You and I may be on an island with that, and I just don't care because
I don't think we are, because otherwise they wouldn't keep making everything
that's
pumpkin-y.
true. Well,
so we're not alone.
Adversely, you and I buy so much of it, perhaps we're possibly keeping the pumpkin industry alive, just you and me. I don't know.
That's fine. Oh, I'll also say we had a little game night with some friends last week, and one of our friends brought over those little like Pillsbury sugar cookies that have the pumpkin in them.
Yes.
It's like white, but it's got the actual little pumpkin inside when you cut it.
Mm-hmm.
So those were delightful as well, because I love those.
It's not even pumpkin flavor, but I count it. You know?
It counts. The season is upon us, my friend, and I couldn't feel better about it.
I'm always sad to know that the warm weather won't be with me much longer, but I'm always consoled by the pumpkin and the scariness and the eeriness of the Halloween and fall season.
I mean, but the weather during the fall is the best weather. It's just that you know that it's also bringing winter.
Well, I mean, I can't speak for how Illinois was when you were growing up there, but Indiana, about the last 10 years, we really only have 2 seasons and about 2 weeks of the other seasons. Mm. So, like, we have a really long winter, a couple weeks of spring, full-blown summer, a couple weeks of fall, right back into winter. I mean, it's kind of sad in that respect. Yeah. The last couple years, it's actually started getting cold the last week of August. This year, it doesn't look like it's going to be quite that bad, but, you know, it was snowing on Halloween 2 years in a row. Not bad, you know, just a flurry here and there, but it was that cold.
Wow. Well, all right. We're exciting. We're excited, and we're excited. Yes. We're excited. The season is upon us, and it's going to be great. But hey, you want to talk about Superman Man of Tomorrow?
Yes, let's.
I mean, I should say this before we start. Yes, we're going back to it's not even that old. It came out last year. One that's been out a little while. One of the animated movies that's been out a while. And so, we have had people continuing to ask, when are we going to talk about the Long Halloween? And I feel like I addressed this before, but I'll say it again because it's worth saying, is we will be doing it very soon, but Jamie's still waiting for the combined version, which hopefully will be coming soon, or for it to hit HBO Max. And then Brendan was unavailable this weekend, so that's the reason we still haven't done it. But I mean,
anybody who would like to give me the $38 it would cost me to buy the two movies right now, I'll do it whenever you want. But I'm not spending $32 on a movie, or $38 on a movie.
I can't
do it.
Valid. But
I just bought all the Nightmare on Elm Street movies for $35 on Vudu 2 weeks ago. I'm not spending $38 on one movie.
Yeah. I will say this, though, is even though, yes, the movies are already out, I do like that we're waiting just a little bit, and so we're going to review it closer to Halloween season. To me, that just feels a little more thematically appropriate. So,
does seem about right, doesn't it?
Yeah, a little silver lining there. So for those of you who are waiting for that, be patient. It is coming. Don't you worry.
I'll make you a deal. If I can't get a decent price or a free streaming thing, and no, I'm not talking about pirating. I'm talking about being on like HBO Max. If I can't get that by about the week before Halloween, I'll get a copy from my library because I'm sure they probably have it over there.
All right. Sweet. Yeah, it is funny because we are waiting to see when they are going to release the combined one. And my guess is still October. I still think that we're going to hear about it soon, and it'll come out next month. Well, I guess it's not even September yet, but it'll come out. I think it'll come out in October because I think they're going to want it on shelves for Halloween.
I'd give you the timeline of the release of the Dark Knight Returns 1, 2, and Deluxe editions, but since they're so random about how they do things now as opposed to 10 years ago or whenever that was, I'm not sure that's viable.
Yeah, that was a long time ago. And then even the Death and Return of Superman, that I felt like was a lot more condensed. I feel like the combined one didn't take long to come out after the second part.
Oh, did they combine those?
Yeah.
Okay.
So anyway, guys, that's your little Long Halloween update. Don't you worry, it is coming. Yeah, we'll do it for at least closer to the season. It'll be great. But in the meantime, let's take a look at Superman: Man of Tomorrow. So Superman Man of Tomorrow, it was almost exactly a year old. It came out last August of 2020. So look at that. Happy 1 year to Man of Tomorrow. That wasn't even planned, but hey, it works out. This one was directed by Chris Palmer, and it was written by Tim Sheridan. Tim Sheridan also did The Long Halloween. He's been sort of the go-to writer for these animated adaptions right now. So it came out last August, and we got some cool vocal performers here. So Darren Criss is Superman, Zachary Quinto is Lex Luthor, Alexandra Daddario is Lois Lane, Ike Amadi is Martian Manhunter, although I'm not familiar with him. Brett Dalton from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is the Parasite, and Neil Flynn from The Middle and from Scrubs is Jonathan Kent.
Don't forget Mean Girls.
Oh, yeah. Yes, that's true, too. So we will start spoiler-free, and then we will give a spoiler warning because we're going to speak freely about this one. So, Jamie, I know you just watched it. I know it was your first time, and part of the reason, I guess, I throw this out there before we start, is part of the reason we're doing it now is it is on HBO Max. So it is readily available for those who want to watch it.
Indeed. And, I think I was probably the last person to watch it. I'm sure everybody else already has. But, yes, this morning, as of about, 90 minutes ago, I finished watching it for the first time. It's one I never actively avoided or anything. It's just somehow it just kept getting swept under the rug and missed and overlooked in favor of other stuff. And I kept forgetting about it. Just kept slipping through the cracks. And Andy's like, what should we do for the episode this week? He's like, we can do an older movie. I'm like, well, we still haven't done Man of Tomorrow, and we've talked about doing it like 4 or 5 times in the last year. It's like, yeah, let's do that. So I watched it, and I got to say, I'm a little sad that I waited this long to watch this because I really, really liked it.
All right. Tell me more.
Well, I think the voice cast is pretty strong. I think there was a choice or two, particularly in the character of Lois Lane, that maybe I found a little questionable or wish I would have been done a little bit better. I'm a big Neil Flynn fan, so like I'll watch just about anything with that guy in it. I mean, he's hysterical, and I don't know how much you know about him, but like I used to listen to the Scrubs podcast because I was a huge fan of the Scrubs TV show, and he's been on there a couple times. And that cat is like an improv comedian from hell. I mean, he's so quick on his feet and such a funny guy. Very talented actor, and he's big and dopey looking, which somehow I relate to that. So I just really like Neil Flynn a lot. So I was glad to see his name attached here. I like the character designs. I think the animation was good for the most part, but I really want to give props to the character designs, especially for Parasite, Martian Manhunter. Superman himself looked good. Lobo looked like he was right up off a page. No complaints there at all. A lot of good action. I mean, people sometimes will say the thing that drives me nuts. My neighbor down the street, she's really into she and her husband both really into the geeky stuff, and she loves Marvel. She's one of those people, which is fine. Nothing wrong with that. But she told me one day, because she was wearing a Captain America shirt, I was wearing a Superman shirt. She said the words to me, "Superman's a boring character." I said, Superman and Captain America are the same damn character, except Cap can't fly. So anyway, that went back and forth for about 10 minutes. But I don't like the idea that Superman is a boring character. I will concede that, like any other character, sure, there's been less than exciting stuff surrounding them, but I don't think there was any boredom going on in this one. I think there was no shortage of action, and I think it was good quality action, which, of course, I love entertainment value, so I appreciated that. Lex was just the right amount of deviant dickhead and smart guy who's going to help save the day in his own special evil little way.
Mm-hmm.
I appreciated that because, that's kind of the Lex that I enjoy anyhow. But he wasn't like sniveling. Like I think Quinto was the voice for him, right?
Yeah, correct.
Yeah. And he does it a little bit like what Rainn Wilson did it, but Rainn Wilson's tone is more nasally and just, I don't know. It worked better for me, Quinto even though they were doing kind of the same style and thing, Quinto just worked better for me than Rainn Wilson did.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, overall, I was very pleased with this one. I'll be happy to add it to my regular rotation of DC animated films, actually.
Nice. Yeah, I actually think that we're very much on the same page. I really like this one too. I did watch it prior to this, probably closer to when it came out, and I remember really liking it. And then when we were going to review it, I was like, I remember liking it, but I don't remember much more than that. So of course I had to revisit it. But yeah, I think this is a really strong one. I really enjoy it. Like you said, I like the voice cast a lot. I think Darren Criss is awesome. Zachary Quinto, very almost inspired for Lex Luthor. I think Alexandra Daddario does a great job as Lois Lane, although I do think that Lois Lane is probably a little underserved in this movie. There's just not enough for her to do. And then it's funny, as I was watching it, and Jonathan Kent would speak, I was like, God, I know that voice. Why do I know that voice? And then it just kind of clicked. I was like, oh, it's the dad from the middle. Yeah, that's who it is. So I like the animation. I like the action. I think that the story is actually really interesting because it is very faithful to Superman, but there's just enough different about it that you don't feel like you're watching the same beats that you've seen 100 times. They do just enough new things that we haven't seen before that keeps it interesting. But because it's kind of a Superman origin story, but it's almost like a little chunk of the Superman origin that isn't explored much. Because, there's Krypton, there's Smallville, and then there's him in Metropolis. And this is sort of when he arrives in Metropolis. So I like taking a chunk of Superman's story that we haven't seen done 1,000 times and doing it in a way that's faithful, but also unique to this version. And yeah, I really liked it. I like that Lex Luthor is there and he's a player in it, but I like that this is a Superman versus Parasite movie. So many of us fans, people who love Superman, were like, we love Lex, but we want to see Superman fight some of his other villains. He has a great rogues gallery, but the movies just seem to ignore that. And so I think making a Superman versus Parasite movie is really fun and it's interesting. I know that there's a little bit of a difference of opinion as far as how many people like or don't like this version of the Parasite, but generally I liked it. I like that they did something different with it. I wasn't crazy about the design itself, but we can talk about that a little bit more once we get into spoilers. But I like that that's who the big bad is, because it just gives us a very different Superman movie than we're used to seeing. And I like the involvement of Lobo and Martian Manhunter, because this is really, you can almost look at it as a spin on Man of Steel, and that is, it's a Superman as first contact story, which is what Man of Steel really tried to do. It just does it in a very different way. And by bringing in supporting characters from the DC universe that are also aliens to show, here's why people are afraid of aliens, like Lobo, or here's an alien who's distrustful of people, Martian Manhunter, and then there's Superman kind of in the middle trying to figure out how honest he wants to be. I think it was a really cool way to explore that aspect of the Superman character. So, yeah, I really liked it. I think it's great. I don't think it's perfect, but I think it's good. And so I enjoyed rewatching it. And, yeah, it's one that I'm happy to revisit whenever the time comes.
Yeah, sounds like we saw more or less the same movie.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty darn good. I will also say this, because it's not spoilery, is I remember before this was coming out and we were getting photos or stills of the movie, and I was like, man, the animation style looks really weird. And I know a lot of people, including myself, were like, oh god, it kind of looks like Archer in that it's 2D, but it looks like it's like animated by computer, and so it just looks a little faker than a normal, like, hand-drawn traditional animation would look. But in the movie, I didn't find that to be an issue at all. In the movie, I thought the animation was great. I just think it was the stills that made the style look a little weird.
Well, the one thing I did notice almost right off the bat, and I don't know why, this is something I always look for or see when it's there, the outlines of the character drawing itself are really thick black lines in this.
Yes, exactly. Mm-hmm.
And that doesn't bother me. It's just something that my attention is drawn to for some reason. Like if it's super thin, super thick, I observe that and I have no idea why. It doesn't affect the quality of the animation or the motion or anything else, but that was the first thing that my eye went to, especially, with Superman in costume, which comes, I don't know, half hour, 45 minutes into the movie. The color contrast between that black line and the blue suit really makes it stand out.
Mm-hmm, yeah. And I think that is it's that dark black outline that makes it look like Archer. And I think that's why a lot of us were concerned before we saw the movie. But again, once I am watching the movie, I don't find it distracting, and I still thought the animation style was really good.
I agree.
And it does feel like this is their new style after they stopped like the New 52 continuity. So, I believe Justice Society World War II is in this style, but that's one I still haven't seen because it was one that I kept waiting for it to go on sale and then it never did. So one of these days it will, and I'll finally watch that. But The Long Halloween, I think, is pretty similar in style to this too. So this does feel like their new style, and I'm wondering, because there is this very defined outline, and I would almost say, because it's not that it's less detailed, it's just very specific in where it includes the detail. I wonder if it is a little bit more affordable, because the movies have gotten longer. Remember, for the longest time, it was like the movie was 70 minutes.
Yes.
And that was it. And this one was 120 or an hour and 26. And I feel like the last few have been. So I wonder if maybe this style allows them to make the movies a little bit longer.
That very well could be, but I noticed the runtime too, and I thought, well, that's unusual for one to be this long. They must be packed with story. And truth be told, and I have no real complaints about the story, mind you, there was so much action. Like each action sequence is a true set piece. It's not like 1-2 punch and it's over. It's a real deal action sequence. And that's really why I think the length of this movie is what it is. Mm-hmm. No complaints from me, of course, because I love action. But I did notice on this one, and I haven't really watched the credits very, focused in a while, but it seems to me like most of the animation in the last tail end of the New 52 stuff was mostly Korean animators. This one, if you read the animator and the designer and all that other stuff list, it is Korean, Japanese, and Chinese almost in an equal split. Like, it's crazy how many people worked on it. But I was reading the names. I was like, that's a Japanese name, that's a Korean name, that's a Chinese name. And it seems strange to me that they were that blended together.
Yeah. I mean, and I guess they're farming out different portions to multiple studios. But you would never know if you're watching the movie.
No, it's not any kind of a detriment to the quality of the film. It's just simply an observation. And it's not like, this cluster was done by Korean, this cluster was done by Chinese, this cluster was done by Japanese. Like, you're reading the credits and so much of it, it's like, set direction 2 or whatever. And it's like every third name, Chinese, Japanese, Korean, Chinese, Japanese, Korean. It was just... And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. It's just, it's a strange observation to me that many various people who were probably not all in the same room, mind you, worked on this one thing,
Yeah, for sure. Cool. Well, all right. Well, let's talk spoilers just so we can speak a little more freely. But we both really liked it. So if you guys haven't watched this one yet, I do recommend checking it out, especially if you like Superman and you want a Superman movie that's something different. And it's mostly original, I believe. Like, I think it is very, like, there's some comics that there's a vague resemblance to, but for the most part, it feels like it's an original movie, which I think is great. I love the adaptations of, things like The Long Halloween or Dark Knight Returns, but it's always fun when you can get an original story like this and really have no idea where they're going with it.
I agree. And to me, it seems the most benefit from that is, like, they'll take some bold swings with some of this adaptation stuff, which I still haven't seen Long Halloween, but it seems really divided on how the second part closed out. And I'm anxious to see which side of that I fall on, of course. But when you have an original story like this, that expectation is not there. So it seems to me like you have a little bit more people siding with the side of, I enjoyed it. I've seen some people say they even thought it was great. I don't think I've seen anybody just straight out come up and say they didn't like or even hated it, for that matter. So
this one?
Yeah.
Well, what's weird is that Stephen Marshall, I did post this on the Twitter that I was watching it yesterday, just so the people who know go, oh, I should rewatch it too. And Stephen Marshall, who is a friend of the show and a big Superman fan, he didn't like it. And I was like, really? Like, he's like a Superman super fan. I was kind of surprised to hear that.
Well, I am too, but hey, as the guy who's often on the side of the fence all alone about not liking or loving something, I get it, man.
Yeah, I mean,
if it works for you, great. If it doesn't, I get it.
Yeah.
I can't say I necessarily see why without somebody explaining it to me, but I am mad at somebody because they like something I didn't, or vice versa.
Yeah, it's just interesting because I was like, wow, this is a really good Superman movie. And then one of the biggest Superman fans we know was like, oh, I didn't like it. I was like, really? Okay. You just never can tell. But anyway, for those of you guys out there, yeah, if you're a Superman fan, definitely check it out. Jamie and I both really liked it, and I agree with you. I think most people I've heard really liked it as well, and it's on HBO Max, so it doesn't really cost you anything. And it's really good. So check it out. We do want to speak about spoilers. And we want to
drink another sip of coffee.
Oh man, this is my mouth. I mean, nothing works before 10 a.m. But trying to record a podcast is always fun. Anyway, so we are going to talk spoilers. You've had your warning. So spoilers are fair game in 3, 2, 1. And now I am going to take a sip of coffee. So you go ahead. You jump to the end or whatever you want to do.
Actually, I'm just going to address the thing that I like the least about the film to get it out of the way.
Okay.
Lois. I've always liked Lois as a character. I generally don't have a lot of complaints with how Lois is portrayed as a character. I like Alexandra Daddario. I don't think she's the greatest actress out there, but I do like her. I can usually watch things with her in it and enjoy it and not have any real complaints about the performance. And I can gladly say that here too. I don't think it was a great performance, but I think it was good enough. I think I don't have any real complaints in that department. My biggest complaint is with the character of Lois, in that I think and listen, I understand the idea of making her the motivated, driven young journalist who's trying to truly get a foothold and make her name for herself in the industry. I mean, this is as much Lois Begins as it is Clark or Superman Begins. So I understand that choice, but she feels almost driven to a point of fault in that I don't know if falsifying information about Superman is quite the right term to use, but you follow my line of thought, in that she was trying to force his hand to get something out of him, even if it meant making some shit up, to have him come out and clear that up. I think she ethically was towing a line there that she was leaning a little too far over.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I cared for that choice much, because even though Lois is often portrayed as driven and strong and independent and all that stuff, which I totally agree with and love, I don't know that Lois has ever reached the point of giving up some journalistic integrity to make the story better or to serve her purpose better. I'm not sure I like that choice here.
Okay, interesting. It didn't really bother me. I get your point. I think it's valid, but I don't feel like she was, I don't know. I guess I'd have to watch it again, but I didn't feel like she was falsifying anything. It was just she didn't trust him yet. And so she was, there was sort of the whole subplot is she was doing these power moves to get him to open up. But I like the idea of, she's like, well, he might not tell me the truth, but I'm going to go speak to this Lobo, and Lobo might tell me the truth. But between what Lobo tells me and between what Superman tells me, maybe I can figure out the truth. So I appreciated all that. But you're right. Like, because she had this distrust of Superman, she wasn't necessarily... she was definitely printing things that were a lot more critical of him than you expect from Lois Lane. So I see your point. For me, my complaint wasn't really that about Lois. I didn't mind that at all. It was more just, like I said, she didn't have a lot to do. It was like the story couldn't quite figure out where to fit her in and make her useful. So I think her characterization was good. I think Alexandra Daddario did a good job, but she just... sort of halfway through, Lois just stopped being important to the story and never really got back.
Fair enough.
I did like that, she was sharing her strategies with Clark on how she was going to get Superman to give her more info, and he just allowed that. He was able to then flip it on its head and kind of give her a taste of her own medicine. I thought that was all really fun.
Yeah. The interactions between the two, I thought, were really strong.
Yeah, I agree.
Both as, the Clark and Superman side of it with her. I thought both of those worked well. Just, I don't know, just something felt off about her character to me. And like I said, I don't know that falsifying information is even exactly what I want to say. It's just, I'm not the most eloquent person in the world, so sometimes I have a hard time verbalizing what's going through my head. Mm-hmm. So, I carried away with that idea. It's just maybe not finding the right choice of words or phrases.
No, I got you, because even if she didn't falsify it, she certainly put out exaggerated or speculative information in a way to bait Superman. Which, I get your point.
Okay.
Go ahead. I will say, since we're talking about Lois, is I really like the moment early on where Lex Luthor is giving a press conference, and not only does she ask the hard question, but she also starts playing the evidence right there in public in front of everyone. And I thought that was a great character introduction of like, oh, Lois has got no F's to give. She's just putting it all out there. So I thought that was cool.
Yeah. You mentioned you didn't really like the parasite design. I'm curious, is it just because it looked like a giant blend between an alien xenomorph and the 98 Godzilla, or...
Pretty much. So that's what I kept thinking. I was like, it's Godzilla 98, and I like Godzilla 98, but I was just like, man, it just looks just like him. It's crazy. It's the pink version. So
I was. Did you just keep waiting for Clark to yell, "Go back in the water"?
I just was like, guys, just pile up a bunch of fish, and he'll come eat the fish, and then they can just kill him.
That's a lot of fish.
It's a lot of fish. So it's just that the parasite is generally more human, and so to make it like a truly like a creature, and then eventually a kaiju, was just a huge departure. Like, I'm no Parasite expert, but anytime I've ever seen Parasite show up in the comics, or I mean mostly comics, because he's not been used a lot in other media, I've just never known him to be a kaiju. So I don't dislike the choice, because I do think it's interesting and it's different, and it certainly makes him a very valid threat. So I didn't mind that the more power he absorbed, the bigger he got. I actually thought that was kind of fun, but just that he kept losing his humanity. And I think that for this story, that was very intentional. But it's just a very different take on who the Parasite is. And then, the design itself, I just kept having flashbacks of Godzilla 98. So it was, I don't hate it, but I know that of the only real disagreement I've seen about this movie is about that. Is a lot of people go, oh, like, what the heck did they do to the Parasite? But what I did like is that as he progressed, like, there is sort of a stage right before he becomes the more monstrous version where he is a much more faithful, for lack of a better term, like much more humanoid version of the Parasite, where you go, oh yeah, that is the Parasite that I would expect to see, and now it just keeps continuing. So
like the Nosferatu version, as
yeah, exactly. But I did like that they made him a little vampiric, because he's an energy vampire. So I thought that was cool too.
I mean, he's not an energy vampire like Colin in What We Do in the Shadows. But you watch that show?
Yeah, I do.
God, I love that. Anyway, I liked all of the designs for Parasite. The Nosferatu one was actually my favorite, though, because
I agree.
That's a really creepy, cool looking take on it. And then, of course, he morphed out from there, and it's like I was fine with him changing again and again, but then I don't know. I feel like I don't have any reading experience with Parasite in comics at all, which I never read a tremendous amount of Superman anyway, because I was obviously more of a Batman guy. But I feel like the only other time I've really seen Parasite is in, I want to say it was Superman the Animated Series. And I feel like at one point he did get large like that.
Oh, I mean, and you might be right. Yeah. Again, I'm not an expert, so if anybody's writing and go, actually, no, that is normal, then I apologize. I honestly just have never, I don't remember ever seeing that.
But I feel like he looked like Baymax with a demonic face, even when he was larger in that version that I saw. Just kind of big, gelatinous looking Stay Puft kind of thing.
I will say this, is that I like this version of the Parasite better than the All-Star Superman version. Because
I don't remember that.
Because in that version, he just looks like a big slug. And he's kind of gross, and I'm like, at least this is sort of a scary monster, as opposed to that one where he just looked like a big gross slug. I didn't like that one at all. So, but I feel like
Superman was written by Grant Morrison, so
yeah,
you never know what kind of weird stuff you're going to get there.
Ain't that the truth? Traditionally, what I picture for the Parasite, and I think this was even true in Superman the Animated Series, again, forgive me if I'm remembering it correctly, is he essentially looks like a naked, bald man who's pink.
Okay.
And so it is interesting how a lot of Superman's villains, like Brainiac looks like a green bald man, Lex Luthor obviously a bald man, and then Parasite is a pink bald man. So maybe they were just like, hey, like, not every Superman villain has to look like an offshoot of Lex Luthor. Let's make him a monster. And I appreciate that too.
Not an observation I've ever made, but interesting nonetheless.
Yeah.
But Superman does have fabulous hair, so I guess bald people would be very, very jealous.
They hate him. They're so mad at that curl because it's so cool.
Right.
But yeah, so it's funny because it wasn't like a deal breaker, and I actually went with it, and I liked it more than I expected to. But I have seen some people go, oh, I don't know how I felt about the Parasite. And again, I feel like the final design was just a little too derivative of Godzilla.
No, I get it, and I understand why this choice wouldn't work. I guess I myself would have liked a little bit more explanation as to why that particular form was taken. I mean, was it the alien technology that Lobo used to cause that accident that caused him to look in this alien monstrous form, or what? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Probably putting too much thought into something that's not all that important.
Well, yeah, but they did. I mean, I think your point is valid. Is they do give like a very vague explanation for what that was and why it bonded with the security guard. But
I mean, they did, but it wasn't what I would call a very thorough
exactly,
explanation.
that's just it. It's a vague explanation, not a thorough one. So that's why you're kind of just like, okay, it's some sort of alien tech that saps power that turned him into a big monster. So
The no feet choice thing was kind of curious, and I guess maybe, as he's absorbing stuff from everyone else. Now that I'm thinking about it, maybe that's part of the Martian Manhunter absorption that caused some of the aesthetic choice or alterations there.
yeah. I really liked that they included, again, like I said before, I like that this is a Superman movie with supporting players in Martian Manhunter and Lobo. Those are ones you don't necessarily see mixing it up with Superman, and I thought it was good choices thematically because it's all about revealing himself and the public's view of what aliens are, and aliens being scary or a threat, and him trying to fight against that. But it just made for a really fun dynamic where you had like the mysterious stranger watching Clark, and then they reveal that it was the Martian Manhunter. I thought that was great. I thought it was a great reveal, and I really liked the Martian Manhunter's design here. I liked how he played into it. Halfway through, when he dies, I was like, "Oh God, I don't remember that." Okay, I'm not sure I like that. And then as I was thinking about it, I was like, "Wait, I'm pretty sure he's still at the end. I'm pretty sure." And then it's revealed that no, that's what he wanted the parasite to believe, so it was a telepathic trick. I was like, oh, that's actually really clever. So no, like, I'm not a big Lobo guy. I do like Martian Manhunter a lot, but if you are a big Lobo guy, this is a very faithful Lobo. And I like how he's integrated into the story, and then I like the way the Martian Manhunter is, but it's still unmistakably Superman's story. But I thought that was a fun way to bring in some other characters from the DC universe in a way that made sense.
Sure. Of the characters that I guess I would call more of a satirical, comedic nature that are actually still part of continuity, Deadpool, Harley, Lobo feels to me like he was around before these other ones. I mean, I know I was reading some of the Lobo stuff in the late 80s, early 90s.
Yeah.
I remember, oh God, this friend of mine that collected comic books, I remember him being furious because he ordered this like $30 Lobo box set, which back then $30 was a lot of money.
Yeah.
I mean, for teenage, early 20s person to pay for a comic book thing, that works a minimum wage job. And there was a book in there called, it was like a 32 or 48 page book called the Wisdom of Lobo.
Okay.
And he opened it and he flipped the page. I was with him when he picked it up. I mean, he couldn't wait to get it because he loved Lobo. Flipped the page, and said, "What the F?" It was all blank white pages.
Oh.
He was so furious about that. And I know they think they're being funny doing that, but I mean, I get why he was mad spending all this money for this box set, and one of the big pieces of it is just a bunch of glossy white pages. That's harsh to do to the comic people. But anyway, I feel like he was one of the first. I mean, I'm sure something somewhere probably predates him even before my time, but I feel like he was really the first of that kind that I was aware of. Yeah. And you're right. I feel like he was off the page, not only in design, but just in personality and character trait too. I mean, even his phrases and his raunchiness, if you will. I mean, he didn't get too carried away. I mean, there was certainly some PG-13 stuff going on with him, but I don't think it got too carried away or mature with it. And again, I like you, I'm not a Lobo guy. I mean, I could take or leave him, but I thought he was really well done in this.
Yeah, I agree. I liked a couple moments when Lois is talking to him and he says, "Oh yeah, there's an army of Kryptonians. They're on their way," and she like gets freaked out. He's like, "I'm just messing with you. No, nobody's coming," and like stuff like that. It was pretty funny because he just likes messing with people, and I feel like he did something similar at the end as well. So,
yeah, he was talking to the. Was it the end where he was talking about how he? Well, first, I guess I'll address this because, it's me jumping to the end of a podcast or end of a show for a podcast. It never dawned on me until they were on that rooftop and Manhunter pointed out, look at us, each three, foreign visitors to this world that are the last of our kind. And I'm like, it never dawned on me until he said it that, yes, all three of them are really the last of their people.
Yeah, and that's what it was. So and then Lobo goes, yeah, but I killed all my people. He's like, just messing with you. That's
But I thought that was a cool moment. I mean, that was pretty good because obviously that was purposeful in the writing beforehand. I really doubt they were, a third of the way through the script of this show, and then somebody points out, hey, by the way, all three of these guys are the last of their alien species, and they all went, let's exploit that at the end. I think that was purposeful from the start, and I thought that was just cool,
Yeah.
because I for some reason my dumb butt didn't pick up on it until he said it.
Yeah, that's true. It's a good point. Yep. So there's also I saw this pretty recently where there's the big fight with Clark and Lobo, which is one of the big action scenes earlier on, and it ends with Clark defeating Lobo but completely naked.
Yes.
Which made me laugh. And Tim Sheridan, I think, tweeted that out going, this is one of the proudest moments of my career, was that he got to create a big Superman action scene where Superman's naked. It was just that was one of the things I did remember about the first watch. So I was like, wait, I'm pretty sure that he's fighting Lobo naked. I can't remember, but yeah. Very different, not something you usually see, but I was amused by it.
I can't say for definitive sake that this is a new thing that hasn't happened before, but it's the first time I can recall seeing it. And I really love that was the inspiration for his mother making him the costume.
Yeah, yeah.
I thought that was a stroke of brilliance in that too.
Well, and it's funny because the whole making of the costume, they did the thing which is now pretty common where she's like, oh, we made it out of your blanket from Krypton because it's not quite indestructible, but at least it's going to stand up to all of this way better than anything you get here on Earth, which is a pretty common thing. But even as they say that, in my mind, I went, yeah, but if it's that indestructible, how do you turn it into a costume? How do you sew it? How do you cut it? And then when she says something like, oh, we went through 16 bandsaws just trying to cut the fabric, I was like, oh, good, you actually thought about it. Cool, check. That's all I needed. So I actually appreciated just that little line of dialogue of like, yes, we know, but we'll go ahead and acknowledge it.
They always have to come up with clever ways to do things like that. Like, I think I remember seeing one a while back, and I can't remember where it was. I mean, it's been years, but like how they were addressing how he had to shave, and he used his heat vision reflecting off of the mirror to burn off his facial hair.
Yeah.
Because obviously a razor isn't going to do anything.
Right.
So, that's kind of the thing with Superman. I don't think Superman's a boring character at all. I think he's a challenging character that you really have to be creative to come up with these ideas that are truly going to work with people being able to say, yeah, I can go with that. Just like you were talking about with the bandsaws to set the costume. I mean, I'm with it. I get it.
Yeah, yeah. I also liked that his costume was inspired by Batman.
Yes, that was a really cool, very quick, very cool moment.
Well, because there was a moment earlier on where Clark is looking through like Lois's notes and the photos, and there's a Batman photo in there.
And it says cool cape.
And then, the fact that Mom goes, yeah, mostly I just copied that Batman that's always running around Gotham. And so, yeah, nice to get the little nods there. There's quite a bit of cool DC nods, aside from obviously having Lobo and Martian Manhunter in supporting roles, but, the Batman nods. And then when Lobo shows up, he even says, oh, the last Kryptonian, here in Sector 2814, which I thought was cool, too.
Of course, I was looking for a Lantern cameo the rest of the time because of that. But since I'd already read the cast list, I knew it wasn't going to happen.
Yeah. Well, what's interesting is that we don't know who sent Lobo for the bounty. So
that's true.
Yeah. So that was something I was like, were they leaving that open in case they were going to make a direct follow up, or it was just interesting because that's why Lobo was there. I did appreciate though that Lobo's arrival is what really sparks the story and gets the story kicked off properly, where the flying man, as they call, can't, he's been helping, but just in passing, where this is like, he can't hide anymore because there's this huge battle with another alien in the middle of Metropolis. And so it really brings him out to the forefront. And at the same time, that's how the parasite is created. And, so I thought that Lobo being the inciting incident was actually pretty smart too.
No, I agree with that. One thing I want to address, because I've thought about doing it twice and then it slipped my mind because we shifted direction in conversation. For all the character designs that I liked in this movie, and I really did like most of them, I think my favorite one was the actual true form of Martian Manhunter.
Oh yeah, the Martian
I mean,
version.
it was really creepy, not to sound xenophobic or anything, but it was pretty nasty, and I liked it.
Oh, I
I thought
agree.
it was really
Yeah.
cool.
I always like that about Martian Manhunter is like there is like the pure Martian form and then there's the more human version he chooses to put people at ease, and I like that this explores both. And since you're
And
bringing
that's
that, oh, go
that's
ahead.
why I can't quite make up my mind on the final evolution, if you will, of Parasite, because I'm thinking now that might have been Martian Manhunter, because that is similar to a lot of what the true Martian form looks like in other things that we've seen, TV, comics, what have you. But this Martian Manhunter, he didn't really have a lot of that look to him. He had like the sideways mouth, and he
Yeah,
kind of looked like a mutant swamp thing kind of a thing.
yeah,
Which again, I thought he was really cool looking, but.
yeah. I also there are a couple really nice story things that I enjoyed. Like at the very beginning, I loved the little prologue of Clark as a little boy watching a movie with a friend, and in the movie, it's like a scary alien movie, and he realizes just the innate fear that humans have of aliens, and his friend is like, oh man, aliens are so scary, and he just starts crying. I thought that was really well done.
I fully agree with that. I'm glad you brought that up, because that was a really good, strong, emotional character moment there.
Yeah, I thought that was awesome. And then the fact that Martian Manhunter is who helps Clark learn about his past. I thought that was really neat too. Of like,
That was where I was going to go next. That was really great, and that you always have these different versions of Superman, which are all fine, legitimate. You have the crystals, you have the ship, you have whatever Kryptonian technology is left to him. And this one, he's basically got a Rubik's pyramid. And he can't figure out how to do it. Like, he knows it means something, but he just can't figure out how to open it up to tell him what he really wants to know. And Martian Manhunter being able to access his memories from being an infant, even though Clark can't remember them, or Kal-El can't remember them, Martian Manhunter can access those deep-seated early infancy memories, and he can pull up all this information for it. I thought that was a really nice touch there.
yeah, absolutely. Because I do feel like there are some versions where the Kents are like, so Clark, you're from Krypton, and and I'm like, how do they know? But like in like Superman the movie, it's the crystal, right? It's once he figures out how to use the crystal, Jor-El is the one who tells him this info. So I thought this was a neat way for him to get that information, as the Martian Manhunter's able to go into his memories and then unlock it, and then he can learn from there. So I thought that was another really creative way of getting there. So it's a beat, like I said, we're familiar with, of Clark learning his past, but it's doing it in a new way that makes sense.
Right.
So yeah, I thought that was pretty cool too. I also like the mom who is just like doting on them, being like, well, if John's gonna stay the night, there's sheets in the closet, and he's like, well, we're fine, we're fine.
So I guess, because I don't know where else to go at this point, I'll address the ending sequence. And I've praised this for all of the action and strong battle sequences, but this one doesn't necessarily close out on what I mean, there's certainly action in there, Lobo setting off the bomb, blowing himself up, trying to take out Parasite, and Lex shooting the kryptonite rifle at him and Superman. And there's a lot of stuff going on there, but the final closure between Superman and Parasite, I love that it dawned on Clark from somebody saying something, or some memory that he recalls, where he says, not only does he absorb your powers and weaknesses, but he also absorbs, your feelings and your emotions and all that stuff. And it clicks on him in that moment. Reason with him, appeal to him. This guy that this janitor that you knew from Star Labs is still in there. Appeal to his humanity and try and make this less of a confrontation, because, I mean, how do you beat this guy? You've already determined he can take all your powers. Every blow you throw at him just makes him stronger. And talking him down, and then having him see what, a mother and a daughter that looks like his wife and daughter, and that whole thing, the way it transitions, and then Clark is trying with every fiber of his being to get to that plant to stop it from going into nuclear meltdown, and he's flying and he skims across the water and he gets up and flies again and he just drops. He's trying to get there and he doesn't have enough power, and then all of a sudden Parasite realizes I'm the one that has to do this. I thought that closure in that moment was really, really good.
Yeah, no, I agree, because it's funny. As they were sort of figuring out how to go after Parasite, it was one of those things where it's like, man, I don't remember how they do this, how they defeat it, because it seems like no matter what they use to try and attack, he just absorbs it. And so, yeah, I agreed. I'd forgotten that was how it goes. And yeah, I mean, it's really the only way you could at that point defeat the Parasite. I also did like the moment where Clark opens up and says, listen, you guys are treating him like he's an alien. He's one of you, and this is just something horrible that happened to him. I'm the alien. And so, again, really, bringing to the forefront that overall theme of, again, it was somewhat explored in Man of Steel, of like, you're hiding because you don't know how the world's going to react, a world that has just been trained to be afraid of aliens. At a certain point, you have to trust them with the truth and hope they do the right thing, and that's really what happens here. I thought that was a really great moment.
Yeah, and that idea of people are afraid of what doesn't look like them, I mean, that's relevant in today's day and age, unfortunately. But.
Well, exactly. They trust Superman because he looks like one of them. Turns out he's not. They don't trust the Parasite, even though he is one of them. So, yeah, I think that's a great point.
I thought that was a lot of heart, a lot of intelligence, and I thought that was really strong closure to that.
Yeah.
Versus, I appreciate solving problems with fists as much as anybody, but I also think that at some point it has to be something else. And in the case of this particular villain especially, I think they did a really good job of solving that problem that couldn't be solved with fists.
Exactly. Yeah. And then, we talked about it a little bit, but I liked how Lex was integrated. I liked that he was taken down at the beginning of the movie, and when Clark is like, I don't know how to proceed, and he's like, who's the smartest person we know? It's Lex Luthor. I got to go to him. I love that, deal with the devil that he makes with Lex, and then Lex in the end, of course he turns on him. But just that opportunistic side of Lex, I thought that was great. It felt very true to who he was. He used it to get himself out. He does help Superman, but then, still has the agenda where he's like, well, now I'll take them both down and I'll have done my part. So I love Lex Luthor as a character, and it's one of those, like, I feel like every Superman story, Lex should be a part of it. I just don't think Lex always needs to be the focus of it, and I think this movie did a great job of including him, making him a part of the story without making him the only villain in the story.
I fully agree, and I really like this portrayal of Lex as a character, and even to the point where they go down into, the Lex cave or whatever you want to call it. Lex is talking to Superman, gathering information, but he's not just gathering information to defeat Parasite. He's putting things in his file of, how am I going to deal with Superman when I get away from this situation? Mm-hmm. Like, I mean, he very, very deliberate choices with how Lex was done in that. And I liked it because, to me, that's what Lex would be doing. He's solving 6 problems at one time. He's playing chess, thinking, 4 or 5 moves ahead. He has this way of doing things because he is that intelligent, that he is going to pick and choose what problem he's dealing with during another problem. I mean,
yeah.
It was really good. I really appreciated Lex a lot in this.
Yeah, I agree. And
even though the weakness of the fragility of him feeling inferior to them was brought out, and maybe I'm reading too much into this, but it's like, you have this guy that steals all the powers. You have this guy that has all these natural superpowers. Who's the strongest one? The one with the ring that's exploiting their weaknesses. I mean, to me, that's him announcing that his inadequacy is now superior to them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's that ego, which, the Lex's biggest downfall is always the ego. It's never the intelligence or the plan or anything else. It's his ego that always, to me, generally brings him down.
Right. Yeah. And I also liked earlier in where Clark was talking to Lois, and Clark was like, well, what do you do now? You've already taken down the most powerful man on the planet. And she just goes, have I? because now she set her sights on Superman. I thought that was really cool too.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Anything that we've failed to mention?
I think I've covered most of the major bases that I wanted to make sure I got across with it, but undoubtedly it's how it always goes. You sign off and an hour later you're like, shit, I wish I would have said this.
Yeah, what about this? But no, I mean, I feel like we've touched on all the main points. So yeah, why don't we give some closing thoughts and a letter grade, Jamie?
I really enjoy it. I think it's a strong entry. If it's a standalone, great. If it's not, and they want to continue a story in this old little side Superman universe, I would certainly welcome that too. I like the fact that I'm going in without any kind of expectations or baggage or anything else with it. It was just something that I could watch and enjoy, and I think there's way more to appreciate here than not. I have very little to gripe about, outside of maybe a little stronger explanation for why Parasite happened the way that he did, as far as forms and initial coming to be, versus just, hey, this grenade happened and it caused this janitor to turn into this thing. And Lois, I wish they would have just gave her another pass in the script and tweaked her just a little better. But, again, these are more nitpicks than anything here. Overall, I think it's a very good quality film. It's entertaining. It's got plenty of heart to it. I think almost all of the character choices are really respectful to the characters, but they're still pretty fresh in the idea that maybe we've seen this done before, but not quite in this way. And I think that takes some creativity, and certainly props to the writers for that. My letter grade, I think, is a solid B+. I'm teetering right on the edge of an A-, but I think I'm very comfortable at a high B+ for this one.
Nice. Yeah, again, I think we're very much on the same page. I really like it. I think there's a lot of great ideas and great story points in this. I like that it is a beginning Superman story in a way that we haven't really seen it before. And I think it has everything that you really want. It has good action. It has some good character. It has some good heart, and it's really entertaining. It's a really good Superman movie, and it's nice that it goes its own route, but never feels unfaithful in any way. So, yeah, I have a couple little nitpicks, but nothing too major. Overall, I think it's a really solid entry, and I was very impressed with it when I watched it last year, and rewatching it again yesterday, I was like, yeah, I remembered correctly. This is a really good one. I was very happy with it. So I'm with you. It's a big B+. I think it's a really strong one.
Cool.
Yeah. So there you go. 2 B+ for Superman, Man of Tomorrow. So look, we can check this one off the list, Jamie. We did it. Yay.
Better late than never.
Exactly. We eventually get around to it. So folks waiting for the long Halloween, just wait another year. We'll get to it.
I was going to say, but we have to wait 6 months to do the Justice League or Justice Society World War II thing, which probably take that long to get on HBO Max at this point.
Just keep waiting. And I do wonder if maybe they just got hip to people like me who are like, oh, if you wait until the physical comes out, then the digital one is half price, because that's what I've been doing for the longest time. And Justice Society was the one that stopped doing that, and I was like, oh, maybe they saw us doing it and have stopped that pattern.
Well, I mean, they're just trying to rake in every dollar they can, and I understand it's business. They're going to try and get money from every angle they can before they start giving away stuff for, quote, free. I mean, right. I'm still paying for HBO Max, but you follow my line of thought.
Sure.
The Long Halloween Part 1, right when Part 2 came out, they dropped the price to $15.
Okay.
And then this past week, they lowered the price on Part 2 to $15, but the price on Part 1 went back up to $20. So if I want to buy both parts, since the dawn of the second one coming out, it will have cost me $35 plus tax.
Yeah.
And I just am not prepared to pay that much money for what equates to, 2 hours and 45 minutes of an animated movie. It's just, I love Batman, don't get me wrong, but if I'm patient, I can save a lot of money by not doing that. Yeah. $35, that's like 6 movies in the iTunes discount bin,
Yeah, I know. All right, well, we will get to it, but for now, Superman Man of Tomorrow is really good. It is on HBO Max, so it is readily available if you haven't already purchased it, but I say purchase it, why not? I do like that, these continue to move forward. So at least they are obviously profitable in one way or the other because we keep getting them. So there you go. And then we will get to the other ones soon enough.
Ideally, if they just start making these being HBO Max exclusives and just debuting them there, that would be delightful. But I'm just saying.
Yeah, but I'm not so sure the business model supports that.
Probably not.
But anyway, before we say goodbye, let's crack open the Wayne Manor mailbox. It's time again for the Wayne Manor mailbox.
You've got mail.
What is a letter for me?
Maybe temporary.
She wrote a letter.
You're one hell of a messenger. This is all, Master Wayne.
All right, so the first one here is from our listener, Muhammad. And he just says, here's my review for The Suicide Squad. It was all right. Yours truly, Muhammad.
No, I mean, there's something to be said for someone not being hyperbolic either way about it.
There you go. Very simple. All right. This next one is from our pal, Timothy Rooney. He says, hey, fellow Gothamites, I wanted to write in and throw my 2 cents into the Tim Drake conversation. I know being heterosexual means I don't really have a leg to stand on, but I wanted to express myself.
Wait, heterosexual means you only have one leg?
Apparently.
I've been mistranslating it all this time.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. Anyway, he says, I understand why people are upset because change is scary, difficult, and unfamiliar, especially with beloved characters. Knowing that Tim Drake has been underutilized since the creation of Damian, having him come out as bi may seem like a lazy choice to some readers. Some folks have become jaded to corporate pride because a few companies seem insincere with their support. I'm not saying DC is like this, but several companies only seem to support LGBTQ+ during Pride Month. However, I think this is an important decision for the character. Knowing that there are so many folks out there who are part of the LGBTQ+ community now get to see a Robin just like them. Robin, the character who's good enough to be Batman's partner, the audience surrogate for numerous readers the world over. Tim Drake is my favorite Robin and happy that he's finding compassion in his life. And to those who think representation doesn't matter and that LGBTQ+ issues are few and far between, look up the gay people who were attacked in Birmingham, UK on August 15th. Thanks for reading this, and I will talk with you soon, Tim Rooney. All right, Tim. Thank you. Yeah, thank you so much for your thoughts. And yeah, I mean, pretty much agreed. I understand some of the people who felt the change was too much, but I think that what it means is so much more important. So, yeah.
Yeah, I kind of get what he's saying because my cynical side has a tendency of believing that most companies show all the support that they do for LGBTQ, however many letters are in it now, and I'm not being disrespectful there. I just literally can't keep up with all of them. It always felt to me like a cash grab. I mean, I worked at a Ford dealer when my wife was in school in Indianapolis, finishing dental school. And Ford sent out this monthly newsletter to their employees. And the back of one of them that I read said, gay, lesbian, transgender, and this was back in like 2001 or 2002. So, I mean, it's still pretty early on in companies even acknowledging this. It said gay, lesbian, transgender represent $2 trillion in buying power. Mm-hmm. So they were basically saying, you know, respect these people, treat them like you would anybody else because they can buy pretty much whatever they want, disposable income, usually no kids, that sort of a thing. And it was basically saying, be respectful to these people, but also be respectful to them because we want their money. It wasn't because they're human beings and we want to treat them right. It's because they've got $2 trillion worth of cash and we want as much of it as they can throw, you know?
Yeah.
So I get the idea of being cynical about a corporation's intentions toward that. DC, I think, in my opinion, is one of the few that I will not file under that category because they hire so many writers that are gay, lesbian, LGBTQ+. I mean, they legitimately, across the board, front to back, top to bottom, support this idea in their writing, in their artists, in their stories, in their characters. I truly think it's a movement in DC, and I don't think I'll accuse them of doing it for a cash grab idea.
No, I agree because they have been so supportive of it for years now, and not just LGBTQ+. I mean, for different ethnicities, you know, think of the reinvention of Blue Beetle and the reinvention of a lot of characters to just get more characters of color as part of the DC universe. You know, it was just something that was underserved. So in the past 20 years, they've done so much work to get a more representation across the board in their universe. And so no, I don't think it's cynical. I think it's the right thing to do, and I think it's smart. But yeah, it is true that a lot of companies do it because there's profit to be made. But if that's what it takes, then so be it. You know, you should do it because it's the right thing to do. But if you do it just because it's smart business, we'll take it too, because, you know, it's still a step in the right direction, even if the motives aren't as pure as we'd like.
Sure. And, you know, Marvel, they've done in this too. In fact, I think they were the first to the game, because I think DC, their first openly gay character was Alan Scott, as a retcon or whatever you want to call it. Excuse me. I think Marvel pulled this in 1991, maybe 92. I could be off on that timeline with North Star with oh gosh, what was
Alpha
that superhero
Flight.
team? Alpha Flight. Thank you.
Yeah.
But I feel like that was made to be for that character, and they never went away from that with that character that I'm aware of. Of course, I was not an Alpha Flight guy. Like, the only time I ever even saw Alpha Flight was when they would show up in a Wolverine comic, because he was sort of kind of affiliated with them at one point. So I don't think it's anything they ever shied away from, but I mean, they got there first, but I feel like things just kind of went by the wayside. You know, they never pushed the issue, and I don't know of any other LGBTQ plus characters that showed up in Marvel until Hulkling is the next one I'm aware of. And I don't know anything about that character other than he was apparently homosexual. So I don't know. I feel like the comics industry as a whole is trying to make that evolution. I just personally think DC is doing the best job of it. And I'm not trying to make this a DC versus Marvel thing. I just think DC, as the way that they openly, publicly embrace everything about this, diversity at every level, I think they're doing the best job of it.
Yeah.
Personally.
Yep. I agree. All right, next message is from our pal Tom Fallows. It says, "Hey guys, I hope you're doing well. Having read the first issue of Batman 89, I was wondering regarding Harvey's characterization if this was closer to what it would have been in early drafts of Batman Returns. Is this what is this what it would have looked like if Dent took the Max Schreck role? And looking at the first issue, do you think this would have worked if Dent had this role in Batman Returns? Also, I really enjoyed your talk about Tim Drake. It really made me smile knowing how much Tim means to Andy. And here's to more LGBT characters coming forth in comics and hopefully in other media in the future. Thanks for the great podcast, Tom Fallows." Thanks, Tom. Always good to hear from you. So the first question is about Batman 89. Do you think this would have been more in line with what Harvey Dent would have been like in Batman Returns? And do we think that would have worked? Jamie?
Maybe, and yes.
Yeah, I agree. I think that, making him more antagonistic to Batman makes sense. I do think that he wouldn't have been as overtly evil as Max Schreck in Returns. I think it would have had to been more of a gray area, whereas Max Schreck was just a bastard. But I think there is a way to do it where he's trying to gain more political power, and then that aligns him with the Penguin. So I think it's similar, sure. And thank you for the support, Tim Drake. And yeah, more representation in comics and otherwise is always a good thing. So thanks, Tom.
I will say though, I love the support that Drake's getting that we're hearing about here, but Carrie's still the best. I'm sorry. Actually, I'm not sorry. Carrie's still the best.
Okay. Next question is from Philip Barker. It says, "Hey guys, I know that you guys have been through some amazing upgrades in life, so congratulations. Tough love." Oh, this is specifically to me and Brendan, so sorry, Jamie. It says, "The tough love between the two of you on and off mic always makes my heart warm. I hope you guys enjoyed the Suicide Squad, but I don't have a question about that. However, I have something more Batman-centric. In the event a former love interest from either of the Burton films has a small cameo in the upcoming Flash film, who would you choose and why? Personally, while I love the chemistry between Vicky Vale and Bruce Wayne from the first film, I would love to see that as I would love to see that as a surprise to throw fans for a loop, but my real wish is to see Michelle Pfeiffer in Selena Kyle or Catwoman. The Bat-Cat relationship is one I'm particularly fond of, and I'd love to see Bruce and Selena wind up together in that world. What do you think? Keep up the great work, Philip Barker. Thank you, Philip. So, what say you, Jamie? If there was, if it's Vicky Vale or Selena Kyle in The Flash, who would you rather see?
I am not particularly fond of the whole Bat-Cat thing, as I've made more than well aware over the last few years. However, I think that one makes way more sense, and I'd certainly support that one more just because I love Michelle Pfeiffer in that role so much. I'd like to see her get just a little bit of, what's the right word I want to use for this? Closure, I guess, for her character, because we never... I feel like there was so much potential there for her character as Catwoman to get a solo movie or show up in a Batman sequel that just unfortunately never came to fruition. I mean, even if it was just some kind of a cameo thing of, Bruce saying to Barry at the end of the movie, I have a date, and he walks out the door and she's waiting for him by the car. That would do my heart so much good. I think I would certainly lean toward that.
Yeah, I love that. I think that would be awesome. I agree with you. Like, I love Vicky Vale, but because where we left this universe was with the tease that Selena's still alive, I think that's more important to follow up on. So yeah, I agree with you. A nod, and plus Michelle Pfeiffer still looks amazing. She could still pull it off. She was so iconic in that role. I think that, if I'm going to choose one, that's the one to go with. All right, next message is from Aaron Cajanto. It says, "Hello, legends. I hope all is well with everyone. Over the past few weeks, Suicide Squad has been the talk in most mediums. I couldn't help think that WB missed a great opportunity to really promote the brand and have a month-long celebration of the Suicide Squad. You start with Gunn's version, then you push Suicide Squad Get Joker Black Label, then maybe the upcoming video game, and then lastly drop the Ayer cut. Feel it would have been a great celebration of the title, but alas, it was not. So this probably isn't a question or a major discussion piece, just more of a marketing event on my behalf. Anyway, take care of yourselves. Tell Jamie I want to hear him bloodlet on the Suicide Squad. And follow up, are you guys keen on the Ayer cut at all?" Thanks, Aaron. So interesting idea. I mean, I do think there was a way to make the Suicide Squad feel like more of an event. I do wonder if that's part of what didn't happen and why the movie didn't do as well in theaters. And this is certainly a way to do it. So I think it's an interesting idea. As for the Ayer cut, absolutely, 100%. I would love to see it. I'd be the first in line to see it. It sounds like it was mostly done anyway. I wish they would do it. So, Jamie?
I'd certainly like to see the Ayer cut come to fruition. Whether or not it's going to happen, I was all but certain it was going to happen around the time that Zack Snyder's Justice League came out. But now I'm just not so sure that Warner Brothers or whoever's in charge of this is interested in doing it. I think they just want to put things to rest and move on whatever direction they choose they're going to go. My thoughts on Suicide Squad, I've said as much about that as I really want to say. Just know I didn't care for the movie. I don't want to dwell negative about it, so I'm just going to move on and talk about things that I do like.
Fair enough. Well, I think you might like this next one, because this next one's about The Dark Knight Returns.
I do like that.
You do like that. This is from Scott Brown. It says, "Hey guys, do you get major Dark Knight Returns vibes in BVS when Batman methodically wraps the cable around Superman's leg and drags him for a few yards, as if there isn't an ounce of doubt or fear in his body? I know the entire scene is an homage, but specifically that moment perfectly captures the 'this isn't a mud hole, it's an operating table' energy, in my opinion. Take care, Scott." All right, Jamie, what do you think?
I mean, I think that's a fair enough assessment. I don't know that I ever quite looked at it in that respect to the operating table sequence against the mutant leader, but I mean, I suppose it could fit.
Yeah. I'm honestly, because of how much of an homage that entire sequence is, I wouldn't have been shocked if that line of dialogue had made its way into the movie somewhere,
I was trying to explain back when that Dark Knight Returns animated movie came out to some friends of mine, and they tend to lean a little bit away from the animated stuff. I mean, they watch stuff like Incredibles and that sort of thing, but it's like, we should watch, we used to do our Thursday night guys movie night thing. And I was like, we should watch this. And they're like, nah, I don't want to watch a cartoon. Let's watch, horror movie or something like that. I'm like, let me show you this clip right quick. And I pulled out my phone and I pulled up the sequence where he's fighting the mutant leader and he's just working him over. And, this is an operating table and I'm the surgeon. They're like, yeah, we could watch that tonight. That'll work. And, of course they wind up loving it. So that sequence convinced somebody to watch the movie anyway.
Nice. All right. Next message is from CJ Higgins. It says, "Hey, Bat fans. Andy, I wanted to say thank you for talking about yourself being bi and how that matters to not just you, but to many others, including myself. I came out recently as bisexual, and I'm on my journey of becoming more open and accepting of others. Sometimes making a character queer can feel forced or pandering with Tim, but Tim being bisexual feels natural to me, dare I say, a win. I assume you're watching Titan Season 3. I'm glad they're giving us the Bat family in live action, and I'm glad that Tim is a fan of Batman, even though he's just as crazy as the Joker. I can't believe DC let them pull the trigger at the end of Episode 3, no pun intended. Anyway, thanks for reading my email. The Bat family is here, is queer, get used to it. Your Bat friend, CJ Higgins." All right, CJ, thank you so much for the message. And I do want to, first of all, you're welcome, and I'm glad that what I had to say 2 episodes ago resonated. That means a lot to me. And like I said on the last episode, is the amount of very sweet and supportive messages I have gotten from the listeners has truly been overwhelming and wonderful, and it's just so much appreciated. But this one, and I got so many messages like this that I was kind of shocked. I got so many messages from listeners that were like, "Hey, Andy, I'm bisexual, and I don't talk about it. And the reason I don't talk about it is exactly the reason you explained in your episode." And so kind of to just reinforce what I said in that episode is there are so many more of us than you realize, but we're afraid to talk about it because we're not taken seriously when we do. And so to hear so many of our bi listeners or gay or whatever reach back out to me and go, "Hey, what you said was right on the money. What you said really summed up what it's like being a bi man in the world today." That meant a lot to me, because that's why I did it, is to make those out there listening go, "Hey, we're not alone. We are real. We are valid, and we need to stop being afraid to talk about it." So, for everybody who did send me a message like that, you're part of our family, and you're seen, and you're valid, and I'm glad that it meant something to you, and you too, CJ. I'm glad that it meant something to you, because the more open we are about it, the less scary it becomes to other people, the more normal it becomes, and hopefully, it just becomes a little more run of the mill and stops being a big deal. So it was very validating to hear how many people are like, "Hey, I feel exactly the same way. I've been through exactly what you described, and I know how it feels." So it always is a good feeling to know you're not alone.
I mean, I'll address it from my own perspective. I'm not gay or bisexual or any of the LT, I can't even keep the letters straight.
LGBTQIA plus.
Thank you. I mean, I'm just going to make him start saying it for me, because he knows it.
It's a lot, but here's the thing. So we keep adding letters, which I think is great, is inclusive. But the fact that there are that many letters, here's the bottom line. It just means that is just a perfect illustration of how broad the spectrum of sexuality truly is. And that's something we all just need to be more accepting of. It's not a binary. There are 1,000 shades and everything in between, and that's why it's LGBTQIA+. Sorry, continue.
I get it. I'm glad you put that in there. I'm terrible with the letters, so please don't take that as any kind of disrespect. I can't keep my own name straight half the time. So I'm not any of those things. I'm the plain old vanilla, boring, white, straight male. I mean, but you know what? One of my best friends in the world, my brother, is bisexual. And he was nervous about, publicly coming out on the show and saying what he said. And from what I can tell, from what he's told me, the outpouring of support has been almost all positive. He hasn't mentioned any negative feedback that he's gotten from it. And I just want to take a moment to say thank you to everybody out there for being nice and supportive out there, because as some of you may or may not know, I am on a journey that's been ongoing for a couple of years now to make myself a better, more positive person. And if you people gave him the negative backlash he was worried about, I was not going to be able to maintain being that person. So thank you for not making me backslide in this process and for supporting my friend and brother in this time.
Well, thank you. I will say, yeah, I mean, the only responses I've gotten have been purely positive. If anyone had something negative to say, they kept it to themselves, and for that I am grateful.
And that's what I ask people to do. So at least thank you for being that respectful if you do have that view.
So no, it was, and a lot of people I didn't even realize. And you know, it's certainly not my place to acknowledge them, you know, by name, but just a lot of people, like, again, reached out and were like, hey, Andy, guess what? You're not alone. And there's just something really great about that. To go, there's a lot of us.
You know, have you ever listened to Ron White? I don't know if he's necessarily your kind of
a little
comedy
bit,
or not.
yeah.
Have you ever heard his thing about how everybody's a little gay?
No, but
Okay, well, you guys can all go Google or YouTube that for yourself. But Ron White's thing about how everybody's just a little gay, it'll make a little more sense to you than you think. I'm just putting it out there. But anyway.
Well, that's what I mean. Another friend of the show, Maddie Feck, he, you know, after this episode, he goes, Andy, it's 2021. Everybody's a little gay. It's all good.
Stop being so suburban.
Yeah. All right, next message here is from Eric Carter, our pal Eric Carter. It says, hey guys, I want to throw in my 2 cents and say that I absolutely loved the Suicide Squad. As much as I adore the dramatic and intense superhero action that we're used to, it was nice to get a change of pace like this that's just wildly different. As crazy as it seems, John Cena's Peacemaker was my favorite coming out of the film, and I'm actually excited to see him in his solo series on HBO Max. A lot of people are poo-pooing that they're that they're doing the series, but what are your thoughts? Do you guys look forward to the show, or is it not really piquing your interest? Either way, this show is the best podcast out there. Keep up the good work. It is inspirational and appreciated. Keep that bat signal lit and pointed skyward. Your bat brother, Eric Carter. Thank you, Eric Carter. Always good to hear from you. And I will also say this. Eric actually sent me a hard copy of Batman Urban Legends, the one with the Tim Drake coming out moment.
Cool.
Yeah. So he, after listening to the episode, he goes, hey, man, I have a copy. I want you to have it. So thank you, Eric. You're awesome.
I tried, but my shop was long gone sold out by the time I went back to get it for you.
Yeah, I know. So thank you, Eric. Now I have a copy, which is great. But anyway, Peacemaker series. How you feeling about that, Jamie?
I really could take or leave it. I could care less. I'm not excited for it, but I'm not going to act like I probably won't watch it.
Yep. Yeah. I'm the same. Like he was not my favorite coming out of the movie, but as I talked about in the review episode last week, that's because you're not supposed to like him. At least I don't think you are, especially with what goes down with him and Flag. I'm still mad at him, so I'm not like, yeah, give me more Peacemaker. I'm mad at him, but I'll still watch it, and I hope I love it. It's just, yeah, it's not at the top of my list because he wasn't my favorite character, and you know, I kind of agree with the fans who go, yeah, of all the DC properties, a Peacemaker series, but hey, it's still a DC series, which means I'll watch it.
Right. Just to back up in a second for what CJ was saying about Titans, I was questioning. I'm enjoying Titans this year. I think it's the best the show's been. I think was it the last episode or the episode before I thought was a little on the wonky side, but I'm hoping that instead of being the series finale or season finale episode being the wonky one, I'd rather have one in the first third of the run be it and then finish strong. Mm-hmm. I was wondering, this version of Crane, I'm honestly still on the fence with him. I like some of what I see. I don't like some of what I see, but I kept thinking to myself, there's going to be backlash against this character, and I wondered how long it would take, and the answer is 5 episodes, because I'm starting to see people say, I'm done with this show if this is the best they can do with Jonathan Crane.
Mm-hmm. I have been loving Titans. You know, I think it's great. I think the season's been great. I like what they're doing with Crane, especially where he is now. I'm interested to see how it continues. It is very different, but not, I don't think in a bad way or in any way that is not faithful to the character. But I've been loving Titan season 3, and we've gotten some messages about, oh, when are you going to dig into that more on the show? And I think, like I said 2 episodes ago, I think I'll wait for the season to be up, and then we'll do just sort of a season 3 look back. But I've been enjoying the hell out of it. And this last episode, the one that's all Jason Todd, was great.
I didn't. Yeah, okay, that's right. So it was the last episode, not this. The most, I think it was episode 4 was the one that I wasn't all that thrilled with.
Yeah.
This last one was episode 5. I agree with you. I thought that was really strong.
Oh God, it was so good, and I thought it was somewhat redemptive for Bruce Wayne.
Yes, I agree with that. I mean, I've seen some people come out and say, well, the writers of this show, they clearly don't like Batman. It's like, I don't think I agree with that. I think they're certainly chasing the flawed aspect of Batman, but I'm not sure I'd go so far as to say they don't like him.
Well, yeah, because after the first 3, I said, oh, I want Batman to be more heroic. I want him to be more likable. And in the beginning of the season, you're like, man, like, I don't think it's that they don't like Batman. It's like what we talked about. I think it's more about removing Batman from the table. But so that's why episode 5 with Jason Todd, I felt like we got more of the caring side of Bruce, even if he wasn't doing it in a way that Jason wanted, but I still liked that you could tell his intentions were pure, which I appreciated. I got to give a shout out to Curran Walters, who's playing Jason Todd. He killed it in that episode. He was terrific.
I thought his performance was excellent.
Yeah.
The son exchange that Bruce and he had, I thought was the best questioning of whether or not I'm your son exchange since Man of Steel. Mm-hmm. I loved that. I thought that was outstanding. I want to give a quick shout out to Batman's trophy case. How freaking cool was that?
Dude, so good. I loved it.
And I'm going to say, I mentioned before the season even started, I didn't want Crane to just be a Hannibal Lecter, which is pretty much what he's been so far. He's been, advisory and kind of working in the background sort of thing, but I wanted him in costume. Mm-hmm. And after seeing that freaking mask in the trophy case, I really want to see that thing, out on the street now. You know what I mean?
Yep, I'm with you 100%.
Mega super creepy looking, and I want to see it in action, not just sitting there.
Yep, I completely agree. I'm so with you, especially because I agreed with you. It's like I love that they're using Jonathan Crane. I had the same concern you. Is he's just going to be in the cell the whole season? And it's a little spoilery, but now that he is free, I can't wait to see where he goes.
But I want to see him elevate yet from where he's at, though. I mean, that's kind of where I am. I think I understand where they're going. The whole idea of this is what a deranged psychiatrist probably would do and act like and experiment with these mind-expanding drugs and all this other stuff. But I do want a little more of a traditional Scarecrow before it's all said and done.
Yeah.
And hopefully sooner than later.
Yeah, I agree.
But was it the last episode or the episode before where they had where they went down into the Batcave and the holographic T-Rex and Penny were back there?
I think that was two of them ago, but that was awesome too.
I mean, that's a really cool way to address that without spending a ridiculous amount on set pieces.
Yeah. All right.
Anyway,
well,
sorry for the Titans rant, but
it's okay. No, it was good because
like
we have been watching it, we have been enjoying it, and again, I've had requests for us to talk about it more, and we will continue talking about it as we go. All right. Next one is more about the Suicide Squad, which makes sense because the last episode was where Brendan and I reviewed it, so we're finally getting some responses to that. This is from our old pal Chris, the Objective Geek. He says, I feel like the Suicide Squad has far more levels of story than people are giving it credit for, especially around Peacemaker and Waller's team. I feel that Peacemaker is a representation of the misunderstood concept of war and peace. The popular notion is that peace is the opposite of war, but in my opinion, it's not the opposite, but just the result of war. Most wars end in peace in one way or another. Peace is just parties coming to an agreement that prolonging the war is no longer in the best interests of one or more parties. What the real goal should be is harmony. With harmony, it involves empathy, everyone striving for everyone to win. If there was a harmony maker, they wouldn't carry out atrocities, but humans have done terrible things all in the name of peace, and sometimes their cycles of violence feel endless, like the way things go down between Peacemaker and Flag. Then he goes after Ratcatcher 2, and then even Bloodsport. As for Waller's team, I find them interesting because they actually have an arc. We first see them as fairly callous people, betting and profiting off of the people's misfortune, but throughout the movie, we see them question Waller's tactics and eventually revolt against her. Throughout history, we know of ordinary people idly sitting on the sidelines as they watch cruel men commit cruel acts because it didn't negatively impact them. But in the Suicide Squad, I feel Gunn is making a point that we should be better than that. Please share your thoughts. Sorry for the mini essay. Keep up the great work, Chris. Thank you, Chris. Very interesting thoughts. Jamie, anything you want to address?
I'm not interested in expanding or arguing or anything either way. I'll just say that I think his points are perfectly valid, and I don't necessarily disagree with them.
Yeah, no, I think so too. I think that there's a lot of great things to consider. I really like what you say about Waller's team, because I even said in the review, I felt like them revolting against Waller was a bit convenient, because it allowed the squad to continue what they were doing. But when you frame it up like this, as far as them having their own little mini arc at the beginning of just only caring about, hey, who's going to survive, and then them actually starting to see them as people and realizing what Waller is doing is wrong. No, I think that actually makes all of that work better. So it's a great point. Thanks, Chris. And then I think Chris wrote in again. And here's what he said. He said, "It's been 8 whole years since Ben Affleck was announced as Batman. I admit that I was very reluctant to his casting, and I'm glad I was proven wrong because he was a great Batman. That being said, I still wish he was never cast as Batman because his casting resulted in the Batman solo films being in limbo for years, and then Batman being pigeonholed as old and past his prime, and as an actor who seemed committed to a long-running genre franchise. An actor who never was committed to a long-running genre franchise. So looking back, if you could have cast someone else as Batman, who?" Thanks, Chris. I will take one exception with what you said, is I do think that when he signed on, Affleck was committed to Batman. I think it was how things fell apart in his personal life and in somewhat his professional life, and the reaction to BVS. I think all of those are what soured him on continuing. I think otherwise we would have gotten a lot more of him. Because I do think that he walked in with the best
affected
intentions.
him so much. I mean, what else is he even working on to that degree? I mean, what was the last movie he made outside of DC? Live by Night, which, by the way, is a sorely underrated film.
Oh, it's great. You know what he's working on? J-Lo. That's what he's working on right now.
You don't want to hear my opinion on that because it's even less than Suicide Squad.
But anyways, I guess the point is, if not Ben Affleck, then who? And I think that we talked about this recently, actually, didn't we?
I think we may have touched on it a little bit.
Yeah, because you said you were down for Josh Brolin.
Yeah, but I mean, Brolin puts you in the same boat with Affleck. He's still going to be older.
He's the older, grizzled one,
past his prime.
Yeah, and also, how many comic characters can Josh Brolin play at this point?
All of them.
He was Jonah Hex. He was Thanos. He was Cable. I guess why not Batman? What's one more?
How many's Jaimin Hansu played now?
Well,
granted, mostly smaller.
Those are all supporting roles, yeah. But I said on the recent episode of Richard Armitage, but I will tell you, before Ben Affleck was cast, I was big time in the Joe Manganiello camp, because I love Joe Manganiello. He was apparently the runner-up for Man of Steel behind Cavill. I'm actually glad the way it turned out, because Cavill turned out to be a great Superman, so I was certainly wrong then. But Manganiello would have been an amazing Batman in BVS, and he was significantly younger than Affleck, so you could have gotten more films out of him. So I think that, in an alternate timeline, I think that would have been an amazing choice.
I mean, not to beat the dead horse one more time, but I've been in the Army Hammer camp for a long time with that, so...
Well, and I'll even go this far. I still think it's going to be an older Batman, but someone who was part of the universe. But Jeffrey Dean Morgan would have been a great older Batman too.
Yeah.
All right. Next message here is from Dave Gango. It says, "I have a question about the Suicide Squad. But first, Andy, I wanted to thank you for sharing in your discussion about Tim Drake last week about your own sexuality and internal debate on coming out as publicly as you did. I had heard you reference this on Disorder and could not remember if it was something you had shared before. I'm a bi man as well, and I know that if I had seen more examples of bisexuality as normal, it wouldn't have taken me so long to embrace that label instead of trying to deny it. I'm now the co-faculty advisor for the GSA at high school where I teach, and I've had more than a few students tell me they appreciate seeing staff members who are open with them as I am. While no one should feel they owe coming out to anyone else, thank you for choosing to do so. Okay, on to the Suicide Squad. Was Harley even meant to be on the mission? She claims to have been caught and put back in jail for road rage involving a bank, I think, but I noticed at the end that Waller and her crew never acknowledge Harley is going off mission, and when she opens the box of switches, there are only 5 faces left active. But one is Peacemaker, not Harley. I don't think she had a new chip in her head and just wanted to hang out with Boomy and Flag again, which is a very Harley thing to do. Anyway, it's guess more of a theory than a question, so I'll ask, what do you guys think? Dave. Thank you, Dave. Thank you for the kind words, and yeah, I mean, good for you for being out there and vocal and open and setting a great example for the students you work with. We need to let the next generation know it's okay to be who you are, and we love you for who you are. So I love that you shared that. Thank you, Dave.
There actually used to be a professor at a local university here in Fort Wayne. It used to be Indiana Purdue University Fort Wayne. It was like the offshoot branch for IU and Purdue. And there was I think he was a drama instructor, shocking. He always started his classes by telling everybody, my name is so-and-so, I'm queer. If you don't like that, get the F out of my class right now. And I'm like, hey, there's nothing like getting things out of the way.
Right, yeah.
The semester, but I mean, much respect to somebody that's that convicted with something. That's how I'd be with anything. I mean, if you don't like how I am, F off. I don't care.
Yeah.
Anyway, I don't want to talk about Suicide Squad, but I know these questions are going to keep coming.
Well, you're on the follow-up episode.
I'm going to say it super quick, and hand to God, I do not want to go any further than what I'm about to say, so please don't ask me to. I think Harley in this movie was the most shoehorned character in a film I've seen since Spider-Man in Civil War.
Okay. I don't think you're far off, but we addressed that on the last episode. I think they had a Harley-less version and then a Harley version, and that's why she couldn't be that integral. But that's so interesting. I didn't notice that. So now, Dave, you made me want to go back in and check, because yeah, at the end, when the team is walking and Waller's threatening to shut them all down, I can't remember if she was one of them. So, I mean, I feel like she was supposed to be part of the mission because. I mean, Waller had to have known she was there, but yeah, you're making me question it. So I can't give you an answer. All I can say, it's an interesting theory, and when I watch it again, it's something I'm now going to look out for. All right, next message here is from Jalen. It says, hey guys, I've been an avid listener for 5.5 years. I'm a huge fan of all the Real Fans shows. I recently rewatched BVS, and I thought the infamous Martha scene. I thought about the infamous Martha scene. At first, I thought it was really smart, seeing how for 80 plus years, Batman and Superman's moms had the same names, and nobody seemed to realize it. But after the memification of the scene, it started to bother me with how on the nose it was. So here is my version of the scene. When Superman arrives at the bat signal and tries to talk to Batman, he says, Bruce, please, you have to listen to me. There's a woman named Martha. She's in danger. We can save her if you just... Then Clark steps on the panel, triggering the sonic devices, and then destroys them. Please, you don't understand. There's no time. Batman says, I understand, and the fight begins. Then the battle continues as it does in the existing films, and then we reach the end. There's a big change. As Bruce raises the spear to kill Superman, he looks down to a young boy with tears streaming down his face, and instead of a spear, he's holding a gun. Realizing the type of person he has become, he throws the weapon away and helps Superman to his feet. Then he says, Martha, how do you know that name? It's my mother's name, Superman responds, and scene. Is it better than the original? Probably not, but I thought my version might be a little more interesting. Thanks for indulging the long email. Your Bat fan, Jalen. Thanks, Jalen. What do you think, Jamie? Little tweaks to the Martha scene.
I've been saying it right along. I think the concept of exploiting their mothers sharing the same first name is a good direction. I think the execution of how it's done in any version of the film just needed to be better.
Yeah. I agree, and I see where your head's at, Jalen, and I think that there are some good ideas in there as far as like if you introduce the name earlier on, where Superman is trying to hide that it's his mother, maybe the finale feels a little more natural. So I think that I think that's a good idea. I agree with what Jamie said. I think that the concept is really cool. I just thought the execution was a little lacking, and that's what, I think that's why it didn't work for a lot of people. And so, yeah, you have your version, I have my version, and I've always meant to like re-edit it where there's no conversation, where it's just Batman holding the spear, flashing back to the opening, to the beautiful lie, and realizing he's become what he swore to protect against, and no dialogue needed. And then he throws the spear and it's over. Which I think that you have sort of that in there too. But yeah, I think that might have worked better too.
Listen, I love that movie and I love that idea and I love Zack Snyder, but I'm just telling you that's not the strongest moment of that film.
Yeah.
And it frankly could have been. But anyway, I'm not a writer, I'm not a director, I couldn't have done better. I'm just saying, perspective-wise, I just think there was a better way than what was done.
Yeah, I agree. All right, next message is from Devin Stanley. It says, "Hey guys, it's been a while since I've written. I wanted to say hi and congrats on all the important life events that you've gone through recently. I loved Andy's comment about the Suicide Squad, and I totally agree. I'm sure James Gunn made really good banana bread, but I'm definitely a lemon muffin fan. I liked the first Suicide Squad better, and I do hope that we get the Ayer cut. Question: I'm reading a superhero novel, not a graphic novel. It's called Dreadnought by April Daniels, and I highly recommend it. It got me thinking, have we ever made a movie about a superhero that originated in a novel? Or do you think they ever would? I know it's a specific question, but I'd love to hear your thoughts, Devin." Thanks, Devin. I'll say I don't think so. I don't think they've ever, made a movie that where the source material was a novel, not a graphic novel, not a comic book.
I'd say the closest would be John Carter, and I'm not sure that's exactly applicable.
Right, yeah. But as far as like a true superhero movie, I don't think so. I do think it would be a great way if you're looking for more inspiration. There are a lot of novels out there, and I feel like they're often forgotten or just ignored. And I'm sure there's some really great stuff that you could mine for another movie. So I don't think it's ever really happened, but I certainly think that it's a great option, as we move forward.
So I do want to address one thing, though. I love you, and who you are as a person. Everything's great. Everything's good. But
Okay.
this banana thing, you and me are going to have it out about that one day. Hand to God, I'm not sure I can live with that.
Well, I like most foods, but one of the few foods I can't stand are bananas.
I know, and that I love bananas and pretty much anything that has to do with bananas. So I'm not sure that this won't be the breaking point of our friendship.
Okay, it's been fun.
It's been a hell of a run, but man, Bananas, really? You hate a banana?
Oh, I hate them. I hate them. But here's the thing is, I do like banana bread as long as there are no remnants of the banana in it. Like if I get like a chunk of banana, it's over.
Oh, so you can handle the essence of it. Is it a texture thing?
It's mostly the squishy, banana itself. Ugh.
Maybe it's just my obsession with primates. And
It's your inner Kong.
I do. I like banana candy and banana daiquiris and bananas themselves and banana bread. Shit, bananas are probably like one step behind pumpkin for me. I love those things.
Wow. Yeah. Sorry, it's one of my few food things. I just can't do it.
It's a damn shame. We had a hell of a run.
Yep. I mean, but we still have pumpkins to bring us together.
Fair point. I'll let it slide for now. I might spike your drink with a banana next time I see you, though, just because.
Yeah. All right, next message is from David Wang. It says, "Dear Andy, Jamie, and Brendan, congrats to Andy for your recent nuptials and your new house. Nothing like having a room of your own with loved ones." In the episode for the Suicide Squad, someone asked about animated appearances of Starro the Conqueror now that we've had our first live action one. First of all, from what I heard about the show, I'd be surprised if I would not be surprised if Starro is somewhere in Batman the Brave and the Bold. He is. I do remember Starro showing up in Brave and the Bold. David also says Starro is in Young Justice as frozen samples in the first season and showed up in full in the third season Vandal Savage origin episode. Starro also has a cameo at the end of Justice League New Frontier during the JFK speech montage. Oh, that's right. Because Darwin Cook wanted readers to fit that story into the first official JLA story. However, one of the most expected or unexpected appearances of Starro is a two-parter of Batman Beyond: The Call, where Terry helps with a mystery amidst the mid-21st century Justice League. I'm going to leave it at that until you actually review that episode. Also, there's a shout out to an upcoming Batman Beyond episode, Out of the Past, which I hope the scheduling can work out so Jamie will be on that episode when you review it, because it's one of his favorite DC characters. Sincerely, David Wang.
It's got to be Booster Gold.
No, it's not. No, it's not.
I just assumed with Out of the Past sounded like a time travel thing. So.
No, I know which one he's talking about, and yeah, you will like it. But okay, yeah. I mean, no, Starro has shown up, I guess, a lot of animated stuff. Thanks, David. Appreciate the rundown. All right, next.
I think the problem I have with Starro is there's the other thing that I can't remember what it's called, like the Black Sleep or Black Orchid or something.
Black Orchid, yeah.
Does a similar thing to Starro, like this alien thing bonds with you.
Yeah.
And kind of takes over your brain, but that one more gives you your dream to placate you like the Matrix or something versus just straight up mind control. Mm-hmm. And I get the two confused. Because, a couple times that other thing has shown up. Like, I know it was in Superman the Animated Series. Because it was the one where, Kal was flashing back to what life would have been if he'd have grown up as just as plain old Kal-El on Krypton.
I think that one is a Justice League.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, because I think Batman and Wonder Woman are the ones in the Batcave trying to... I want to say it's the Batcave, but yeah, where they're trying to help Superman.
No, kind of the same continuity, I guess. But...
Yeah.
Anyway.
All right, next message here is from our pal Julian Chan. It says, greetings from my new home in Hong Kong. I thought I'd share a fun fact about the Suicide Squad. The song that plays when Harley makes her escape has long been a favorite of mine, Just a Gigolo by Louis Prima, a jazz singer who also voiced King Louie in The Jungle Book. I Want to Be Like You is also a favorite of mine. Anyway, I thought you'd find it interesting. Cheers, Julian. Thanks, Julian. Do you know what's funny is... I know Just a Gigolo, but I know the David Lee Roth version.
I was just getting ready to say, I thought that was a David Lee Roth song. I didn't know if somebody did it before him.
So I had no idea it was originally a Louis Prima song. So that is interesting. I, of course, know Louis Prima was King Louie. Come on. But no, I did not know that he did the original version of Just a Gigolo.
News to me.
Yeah. So thanks, Julian. And I hope you're settling well into Hong Kong. All right, we have one last message here. This is from Eddie Bolton. It says, hey guys, it's been a while since I've written in. First of all, I'd like to congratulate Andy on speaking up a few weeks ago. It was incredibly brave, and I'm sure it was daunting. But the more people who speak up like you did, the less people will feel fearful about being proud of who they are. This has always been a safe space of a podcast, one which I've taken liberties with myself. So thank you for continuing to be open and welcoming to all. On to my question, I had one of the best cinema experiences in years at the Suicide Squad. Wine helped. I understand the arguments that Brendan and Andy had with using little-known characters, but for me, I enjoyed having little prior baggage with them, and I really loved getting to know some new faces. Anyway, if you could pick 5 Rogues Gallery to be in your Suicide Squad, who would they be, and which one you've got to pick would die? Thanks, guys. Lots of love, Eddie. Thanks, Eddie. Thank you for the message. Thank you for the support. And I'm glad that you love the Suicide Squad. That's awesome. Nothing wrong with that. So 5 Rogues Gallery to be in your Suicide Squad. And one has to die, Jamie.
Mr. Freeze, Clayface, Man-Bat. Bane. The intelligent version, not the Batman and Robin version.
Boom.
And I'm not sure who the 5th would be. I don't feel like Riddler or Penguin or Joker or any of them really belong in a Suicide Squad setting.
Yeah.
And the only reason I put Freeze in there is just because his power set. And because they said something about Mr. Freeze, and I didn't see Mr. Freeze, and I was kind of sad. Trying to think of somebody that would be unusual, but not like off the charts silly. And as far as who would die, I'd kill everybody just because I'm that way.
Just because you can.
Because they didn't do it in the movie the way I wanted them to do it, so I would fix that problem. I'd just kill them all.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I'm trying to not just pick Batman villains, but of course I'm kind of tempted to because they're my favorite.
We said Rogues Gallery, isn't it? Or are we just expanding as like DC Rogues Gallery?
I don't know. I took it to mean DC just because Suicide Squad tends to be all of DC, so I could be wrong.
I mean, I'm not sure that would change any of the 4 answers I've already given.
I mean, I would totally watch that.
I mean, Clayface brings a different dimension because then you get somebody that can disguise and infiltrate and all that other stuff.
Yeah.
Or just become a straight up giant monster if they want to.
Yep. Again, hard to not just pick Batman villains, but I'm going to try not to. So if I was making a Suicide Squad movie, can I use ones? Can I use characters that have already been in a Suicide Squad movie?
I didn't hear that stipulation put in, so I'd say sure, why not?
So I think I'd go Deadshot as the leader because that's pretty standard. So I'd go Deadshot. I'd go Killer Frost because it gives us something outside of Batman's world. Scarecrow because we were just talking about him and he was on the table for the first Suicide Squad movie and I'm kind of bummed he didn't make it. Deadshot, Killer Frost, Scarecrow. I need a big monster.
He put in Killer Frost and Scarecrow to represent Christmas and Halloween, just so everybody's clear on that matter.
Yeah. I like your idea of Clayface. So yeah, Clayface. And for the 5th, let's say Scarface, just so I have someone to kill. What good would Scarface be in a Suicide Squad? None. So he can die. Although I would also toy with killing Deadshot as the leader. I think that I love Deadshot, but I also feel like him making the sacrifice play would actually work well for a Suicide Squad movie. So if I kill Deadshot and not Scarface, then I would put in Poison Ivy to get another female.
Good call. Yeah, I'll put down Ivy as my 5th just because it's something a little different.
Yeah. Because I was tempted to go like Black Manta and Cheetah, but at that point it becomes almost Legion of Doom. I was trying to think of like there's sort of a line of villains of this power level and below are Suicide Squad, and villains of this power level and above are Legion of Doom. So I was trying to not do a Legion of Doom.
Stop saying Legion of Doom. You know, it hurts my heart every time I hear that now.
I know. All right. Well, thank you for the message, Eddie. Thank you for the messages, everybody. Always great to hear from you guys. If you've got questions or messages for the Wayne Manor mailbox, you can send those to holybatcast@rf4rm.com. But that's where we're going to wrap up this episode. Thank you guys, as always, for downloading the show. It is very much appreciated. Please do subscribe wherever you get your podcasts so you never miss an episode. Please rate and review us on Apple Podcasts. And as Michael Keaton's Batman says, I want you to tell all your friends about me. Visit holybatcast.com. Again, find Holy BatCast on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. And the email for the Wayne Manor mailbox is holybatcast@rf4rm.com. I already told you where to follow me, and you can't follow Jamie anymore because he is staying out of it. He's staying out of trouble, and that's fine, but you can keep up with him here on this show as often as we can make it happen. But that'll do it. Thank you guys as always. We'll see you next time. Same bat time, same bat channel. Holy BatCast is not affiliated with Warner Brothers or DC Entertainment. The views and opinions shared by the participants are theirs and theirs alone and do not represent the companies or organizations they happen to work for.
You sure you're from Krypton?
I'm from Kansas.
Well, something about Kansas made you strong. Weird strong.